This is Anthony with True Diamond Heart, getting into our video series on waking up and living. To begin, we need to understand, or at least begin to think about why we want to awaken. What is it that we're looking for? What is it that waking up means? What's the attraction? Why bother? Well, to be honest about our lives so far, now we're all taught, especially people that are probably interested in this kind of video, we're taught to think positively and speak positively and all these kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. That has its limited value. But I think you've noticed that you haven't been able to seriously affect your life, seriously improve your inner world. Let's not talk about maybe you've been able to attain money or sex or attention or power, but your inner world. Now, this takes a certain degree of honesty. If you're fully asleep and have no, at this point in your life, impetus or drive, or you haven't suffered the kind of conscious suffering, the suffering hasn't raised to the point where it's said to you, I don't want to live this way anymore, then what I'm saying will make no sense. And you'll say, I get what I want, I do what I want, I'm my own master, I know everything. And that's fine. That just means that someone with that mindset is not at a place yet where they are ready to begin hearing or germinating the seeds of awakening. But for those of us that are here now, most of us are probably here for the reason that we are either interested in awakening already, or the seeds are that our ground, our earth is just fertile and ready to germinate these seeds. The germination of the seed begins with the understanding, or at least the glimmer of an understanding, that my inner world has been quite difficult. Now, the ensleepening, the fully unconscious state, doesn't even know it's suffering. It knows it's suffering when it's feeling physical pain, and it knows it's suffering when it doesn't get what it wants. But there's all kinds of examples of people who get what they think they want, and they don't know they're suffering. But there's always a lot of drug use. There's always a lot of kind of wild sexual practices. There's always a lot of lurking violence, and there's tremendous impatience and instability. But things are working so perfectly on the external level that it seems like it'll get taken care of. Oh, I'm irritated because I have to wait in traffic or whatever it is like that. But it passes and the next pleasure comes, and there's enough pleasures coming and the pain is kept far enough away. But we all age, and then the pleasure-pain ratio becomes a lot harder to maintain the higher pleasure. So for those of us that are not completely, that are uncommitted on any level to waking up, that have some beginning glimmer or some greater idea of awakening, we see that our inner lives, because once you begin to awaken, it'll often seem like I was happier before. What you were before was you were unconscious, which means you didn't know you were suffering, and yet your relationships were unstable. You were very concerned with what other people thought and what you thought about yourself. You didn't feel peaceful and at ease. It was impossible for you to be by yourself or in quiet without something entertaining or busy happen. If you didn't have something to look forward to, misery. All of this dependence on external and on things going the way you think you want them to go. And there's always tremendous addiction, emotional addiction, physical addiction, eating and smoking and drinking addictions, sexual addictions, all of these addictions, which means a compulsive need, and doing addictions. You have to always be busy and doing something. That is fully being asleep. As you start to see that that didn't give you the ease and the place and the peace that your soul craves, you turn to awakening. You say there must be something else. And that something else is always calling you. Your soul, that untarnished, perfect being that you are underneath everything else, is always calling to you and saying, come home. So we want to awaken because we need to. It's what our soul calls us to. And the beginning of awakening is to start to see how our lives have not been what we want them to be. It's not a judgment. As soon as we judge it, then we're indulging it and we're just continuing it. We see it and we simply say, okay, I have a thorn in my foot. Let me pull the thorn out. It's not that I'm bad because I have a thorn in my foot. It's simply there. I'm not living the life I want. Let us find a way to pull the thorn out, bandage the wound, let it heal, and then walk in healed. Walk as healed beings. We are just beginning. Being awake is valuable for so many reasons. We'll get into that in the next video. We'll talk about the value of waking up. Value of waking up. Stay with us. We're just beginning.